All right, welcome everybody to another wrestling podcast. My name is Jonathan Benjamin, and today we are going to speak with somebody who needs no introduction, the godfather of MMA, and now he is back in the squared circle. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to welcome Mr. Ken Shamrock. Ken, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, there's a lot going on. You're now working for Impact Wrestling, which may have shocked a few people. Could you just kind of let us know why you chose Impact maybe over some of the other places that you could have went?
Well, I first of all, I didn't know I was going to get back in wrestling again. I know I took about a year off to no training, nothing, and then I started back training again after about a year layoff. People started mentioning about how good I looked, and I felt really good, but I didn't know how I would feel if I had started fighting or wrestling again. So I took a match over in BCW over in Australia. I had my first match. I felt really good. I was conservative, though, but I still felt good. Then they invited me to go back and have a couple more matches, so I went back, and it seemed like every time I got into the ring, I felt better and better and better. And then I said, okay, man, I feel really good. So I made a video saying I was putting the wrestling world on notice that Ken Shamrock is making a comeback. And the reason why I did that was because I had been in the ring. I felt great. And I wanted to be able to kind of get the feelers out there to see whether or not there was interest. Well, Impact and myself and Moose started having a little beef over through the social media stuff. That kind of caught on. Next thing I know, I'm wrestling in the ring at Bound for Glory, and I do a suicide dive over the top rope, a showstopper, a hurricanrana, and I haven't done that for 15 years, and I just did it. Just felt like, okay, let's find out whether or not I am really 100%, and I am. And so since that time, I've definitely looked at other places, but I felt like Impact was a place that had room for growth. That it seemed like they were just starting to find their groove. They made some changes. They got a TV deal done, and I felt like, wow, I think I could probably have more of an opportunity here and help this company grow along with myself, because it seemed like there was a lot of room for these people to want to have the company grow at a fast rate, and using me and my character to do that. And so I felt like Impact was a great spot for me. I thought that I have a lot of opportunity here with them. They've treated me well. And so I think within the next year, maybe two, I think that everybody's going to be talking about Impact in a different language, because I think they're going to be up there with the biggest companies.
Well, it's incredible. You mentioned you did those things at Bound for Glory, the suicide dive and all of that stuff, and you said that you're at 100%. I would argue that you are 150%, because there are people that aren't doing that today, and you are on everybody's mind right now. So, you wrestled Moose, and recently in the news, we talked a little bit about Joey Ryan. You
Right.
had this match with Joey Ryan, and it's kind of I want to say it kind of split the wrestling audience in half. Some people think it is a fun thing to do, and some people think that it's mocking the business. What are your thoughts on this?
How in the world can you be a wrestler or a wrestling fan and be against entertainment? I don't get that, because these guys that are saying this stuff are guys that have been put over, guys that have had great careers in wrestling, whether they be announcers, managers, or wrestlers themselves. They're talking bad about a gimmick. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you? They're all gimmicks.
Yep.
So just because they don't approve of someone's gimmick, does that make it wrong? This is entertainment. None of these guys would have the career they had if somebody else didn't put them over. So to me, they're hypocrites.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I'm sure you get this question a lot, but I'm going to try to tweak it a little bit. So, we see a lot of people, and you were one of the first that crossed over from MMA to professional wrestling. And, you know, you opened that door for a lot of people. We see some amazing people that are doing it today. But my question to you is, in your long career in professional wrestling, and even today, are there any people that you see in professional wrestling that you would think would have a good crossover career to the MMA?
Oh, I don't even want to speculate on that because I think it's all about the mind and the heart of people wanting to do something and challenging themselves. And so you don't really know, even though you may think somebody could really do well, but you just don't know unless they do it. So, but I take my hats off to anybody who has crossed over and tried something different. Even if they weren't successful, they're braver than 90% of the other people out there, and they should not be criticized or mocked because they've done challenged themselves, and maybe they weren't successful, maybe they were, but either way they're much more braver than the people that didn't do it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you coming back to Impact's sort of a homecoming for you. You were their first champion in 2002, and do you have your sights set on that championship, or are you just kind of feeling out what's going on in Impact right now?
No, my sights are set on the world championship. I got involved with wrestling, and I never get involved in something just to go halfway. You know, I got involved and I chose Impact because I want to be able to go back and get that title. I have history here. I like the guys that are on this squad. Everybody's competing against one another. They are happy for one another, but at the same time, they want to outperform each other. To me, that's a great locker room. It's a healthy locker room, and it really breeds success. So for me, I really love the atmosphere and the competitiveness and also the support.
Awesome. Now, you are aged at 55 years old right now, and are better than most people. Like I said, that get out there. What are some of the I don't want to say easy tips because I don't think it's easy, but what makes you successful at your age doing these high intense sports? Like what's the best thing to do? What kind of regimen do you have?
Well, I think for me, the biggest thing was taking a year off, not training, not doing anything. It's hard because you get depressed. You don't feel good because you don't look the way you used to look. You get soft. But what it did for me was it helped me recover. It really did help me feel good. And then when I started back training again, I came back stronger. I came back even healthier. I came back in better shape because my intensity was there, because I wasn't burned out. I went for almost 27 years and I never took time off. I was always training for the next thing. So I think that took a toll on me. I didn't realize it until I had stepped away. I took the time off. Then I went back to training again, and I started seeing huge results because I took that time to let my body recover and rest, let my mind rest, let the intensity or the stress just leave my body because there was nothing to train for. And then when I did start coming back, because I just felt like I didn't like what I saw in the mirror, I had all kinds of energy and I felt good doing it. So then people started, mentioning how good I looked. And so then I started getting myself thoughts of getting in the ring. I went in the ring. I felt good. I challenged myself. Now I'm at a point now where I feel like I'm 25 again, whereas there is so much for me to want to achieve right now. And I have goals set for myself. And right now that's exactly my mindset, is to achieve the goals I set for myself.
Well, I would assume some of these goals include some of the things that your endeavors outside of Impact Wrestling right now. And I wanted to talk to you and ask you a few questions about Valor Bare Knuckle fighting. I know that's something that you started. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, a long time ago, when I first started out in this, I really fell in love with the no holds barred. To me, that was the purest of any combat sport. Two guys went in the ring, and there was no politics. There's two guys fight. One guy was going to win, the other was going to lose, period. And I fell in love with that. And then they started putting gloves on guys. They sold it as a bill of being safe, which that is just full of crap. When you talk about putting a 4-ounce glove on somebody with tape on your hand, it's like a sledgehammer, but you don't break your hand. You can keep punching them. You don't have to hit a soft tissue. You don't have to be accurate. And so for me, it took away that pureness. The submissions were tough because of the big glove. Guys that were really good strikers, they didn't get rewarded for landing strikes on a button. But guys that would throw haymakers would get rewarded for hitting a guy in the back of the head or the side of the head. They would get rewarded for winning, as opposed to a guy that was more accurate with his punches. So it took away the real purity and professionalism of what I fell in love with. So coming back to your question is that I want to bring it back. I want bare knuckle to come back because we have enough evidence, we have enough medical proof that shows that bare knuckle is not more dangerous than a padded glove. In fact, most people and somebody that has done it himself and other people that have done it will tell you, yeah, I would rather have a glove on because I won't break my hand when I punch you in the head. So now you're saying to guys that, like myself, who are more on the purity side of it, I want to bring back that purity because I think that it will get more professional. You won't have guys that are very inaccurate. You get more precision striking. You'll also get the submissions when you get chokes and stuff. That comes at a later date. But right now, bare knuckle has got to get accepted. And I think the best way to do that is to be able to show people the effects of bare knuckle and also what it looks like when people fight bare knuckle, true bare knuckle, not with tape on the wrists or hands, but true bare knuckle, what it looks like and what the results are. You know, the last fight we had with VBK1, there was one hand that had a bruise on it. There was no broken hands. You look at the other bare knuckle organizations and the UFC, you guys are breaking their hands all the time. Why? Because they got stuff on their hands that gives them a false sense of security about being able to punch somebody as hard as they want anywhere in the head. Taking those tapes off, taking the gloves off, your mind is telling you, I can't punch that hard. I got to be more accurate and hit that soft tissue. So that's why I think the education of Valor Bare Knuckle will educate people on the safety of bare knuckle and that what they've been sold for so long is a lie.
Awesome, awesome. So not only do you have Valor Bare Knuckle in the works, but you are also working on an autobiography, a book. What made you think that this was the right time to do that, and what can we kind of expect out of this book? What will we learn about Ken Shamrock?
Yeah, Jonathan Snowden's doing that book, and normally when you write these books, you want to try to write it when you're done with everything. Unfortunately, I'm not done. But it's going to be more about me as a kid, living in the streets, lived out of a car in juvenile hall. I had strong arm robbery. I got stabbed, just stuff that the hard stuff that I went through. And then to show where I ended up and the success that I had. So for me, it's really about, if you watch the Rocky story, it's that 10 times, because I am a fighter, and that's what saved me. Was I was able to take my aggressions and my frustration, and I took it out in the ring, and I was able to be successful at it. And it saved me because before that I was taking it out on other people outside of a ring, and I was getting in trouble. And so for me to be able to direct that anger into something positive, I believe is a story that will resonate with a lot of people. And it's a true story. So I look forward to the book. I think it's going to be hard to read at some times, but the story in the end is the payoff where you know who I am now. And so I think that for people, when they read it, they're going to be able to enjoy a true story. That is something I think later on will probably turn into a movie.
That's awesome. Now, when you're in this process and you're rethinking of all these stories and tales that you've done, has that been something that has been helpful to you, or is it dredged up any like old feelings or anything while you're doing this?
Well, the first time I did a book, it was years back, and it wasn't as deep, but I had to go back and kind of tell a little bit of stuff. And I remember my wife told me that I changed. Like, I was starting to get depressed. I was hiding in my room. So all these things started coming up. I didn't see it. I didn't see that, but she saw it. So I remember she said, when you do this book, because it's going to be much deeper, you need to listen to me when I'm talking to you, because last time you went into a depression. So having her around, being able to, help me not, go down into that deep area again by talking about this stuff, was a tremendous help to me, because she was able to keep me from taking that dive again while I was talking and going through all these old things. So it is very difficult for anybody that has gone through stuff like this. You hear people talk about it all the time. What I think bothers me a little bit, though, when you hear people talk about stories, I can tell whether somebody's truly gone through something like that or not by the way that they act. And a lot of guys talk about it and they don't feel anything. And to me, that's a bad sign, because it doesn't seem real. Not saying it isn't, but it's just, I think if you've really gone through it and you have to bring it up and talk about it again, then there's some heavy stuff that went on. And so for me, that's what happened with me. Was my wife had to coach me out of it again, and bring me back to where I was at, because even when I was fighting and I went through all the stuff I went through, nobody ever heard me talk about that stuff. And because it's buried, you don't want it to be up. But then there's this point in time where you're doing something like this where you have to, right? You got to bring it out. So there's also those things to look at with people when they do talk about it. Anybody that talks about it freely, you got to question it. But people that have hidden it for so long and then they have to bring it out again, that's where you know that there's some heavy stuff.
Absolutely. So, we know in the entire world, we all know you as the world's most dangerous man, and with good reason. But how do you see yourself? Is that something that you, like, if you were to give yourself a nickname, what do you think it would be? Would it still be the world's most dangerous man, or are you just kin to you?
Yeah, I've never really, I embrace the name only because it's entertainment, but I've never really seen myself like that.
Yeah.
To me, being a world's most dangerous man isn't a good thing. So the name, I get it because it's entertainment and we use it in more of a creative way. But when I first heard about it, I didn't want it, because to me it represents something bad. So yeah. So it's kind of like that middle ground, whereas, okay, I get it, it's entertainment, but at the same time, that's not me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it could be argued that wrestling was at its most popular during the Attitude Era, which you were a huge part of. Why do you think that now we're starting to see that creep back in today, where it's on the upswing again, professional wrestling?
Well, I think it's because the fans are, and I think you're seeing it in the UFC or the MMA world too. I think the fans are tired. They're tired of the tired. They're tired of the tired, which means it's like, why are we keep doing the same things over again? Why are we not being more creative and trying to create better things? And, when you watch the NFL, there was a time where scores would be 9-6 or 3-0. And NFL got smart and said, you know what? We're losing fans because the game isn't exciting anymore. And so they changed the rules. You can't hit the quarterback. You can't lead with the helmet. And they say it's all for safety, which it is to a point. But really, it's about making the game more exciting. So you can't hit the receivers. You can't hit a receiver that can't defend himself. So now you're seeing 40-45. The game is much faster. It's more exciting. And the fans are piling in to see it. Why do people not look at the entertainment industry and go, wow, that's a great idea. We need to change the rules. We need to make fighting more exciting. How do we do that? I mean, if you get creative, you can find ways for the fighters to be faster, make the fights more exciting, but you got to get out there and put a think tank together and figure out, how do we make it more exciting? Because right now they're losing fans. People are not watching like they used to. So how do you do that? And there's a lot of smart people out there and they're not using them. So for me, I said, you know what? If they want to keep going in the same direction and they want to keep putting on, not boring fights, but the same old kind of fights, then I'm going to go out there and put on something different. And that's where VBK comes in, Valor Bare Knuckle. because I believe 100% without a shadow of a doubt that people fell in with bare knuckle, not MMA.
Absolutely. And that's something I wanted to bring up too is we've seen a little bit more of this, and you've been involved, so you would be the person to ask. But have you seen with UFC specifically? That's the only one that I've really been able to watch. But does that not feel like, does that not have a more kind of professional wrestling feel to it now more than ever, with the fighters trying to have catchphrases and walking out like the way they do? Do you see that happening too?
I do, and I don't have a problem with it, except for you got to back it up. You got to go in and fight, right? And you got to make fights exciting. I don't have the problem with the entertainment part, but the fighting stuff, because there's so many of these referees or judges that are not allowing these guys to fight, there's too many rules. And so if the fights are getting like wrestling was back in the day, not pro wrestling, but collegiate wrestling, where somebody wins 1-0. Nobody wants to watch that. So you got to get together and start putting your minds together and going, how do we make MMA more exciting? How do we change the rules to where we can have guys being able to finish fights? Because there are rule changes you can make that will make these guys have to go fight better and more and harder. There's ways to do that. And I'm not going to tell them, because now I'm competing, not actually head to head, but I'm in the industry now. And so if I can do this, if I'm thinking of this, why can't anybody else do that? I mean, I put one show on, VBK 1, and it was a hit. Everybody wants to see the next one. Why? It's not because I'm some genius and goes, oh yeah, by the way, I'm going to create a new style. Style's been around forever. It's because I know what people want. I listen to the fans. What these guys aren't doing is they're not listening to the fans. They keep doing the same thing over again because they think they're smarter than the fans.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I know you're super busy, and we want to get you out of here. We got one more question for you. 2019 obviously has been a huge year for you. What does 2020 have in store for Ken Shamrock?
Well, I think right now I'm going to definitely, I got my goals set on that heavyweight belt for Impact. And we're going to be doing VBK 2. We don't have a date set yet, but we're getting ready to announce it, lock it down. And we've been teasing a little bit about LeVar Johnson and Mark Godbeer. We'll see if we can get that put together. And that's something I'm really going to enjoy if we put that together. And I think in 2020, I'm biased, but I truly believe there's going to be a shift in pro wrestling. And I think Impact is going to be on the radar within 6 months. And I also believe that VBK will be on the rise and people will be turning, and they're going to have to respect us because we're coming.
That's awesome. Well, what's the best way for people to keep up with you? I know social media is a huge thing, so can you let us know where to find you?
Yeah, KenShamrock.com. Is where I've got all my social media sites on there. So if you want to go to my Twitter, it's on there. It's at Shamrock Ken. I also have my Facebook, Instagram, all the stuff's on there. So if you guys want to stay in touch with me, or even ValorBK.com, where there's all our information for our bare knuckle. That's on the rise. And in Impact Wrestling, man, stay tuned on that, because I think people are going to recognize them in the next 6 months. They're going to be one of the companies people will have to watch for. I want to end on this. I did an interview with Ariel Helwani, and there was a question that Ariel Helwani asked me about the BMF title, and I made a comment on it. And people were, some of them, not all of them, were frying me because I laughed at the BMF title, because I was talking about the old school way people used to train, used to fight, how it was so different. There were no maps to it. I want to make sure that I address those people that have been talking smack. You have to understand this. I wasn't laughing at Diaz or Masvidal. Those guys are Hall of Fame fighters. What I was laughing at was the idea of the BMF title. Are you kidding me? They fight once every 6 months or once every year. They wear 4-ounce gloves. and they don't fight 4 times in one night or even 6 or 7 times in a month. So it wasn't that I wasn't saying they were great fighters, because they are. I was laughing at what I had seen and what I had went through with guys like Oleg Taktarov, who would take a beat until he was almost dead, and then he would come back and win. That's a BMF to me, okay? So chill out. Read the whole article before you start making comments, because the things you're saying about me not respecting them, or if I was to fight them today, you'd be thinking differently. I'm 55, man. Please. I'm talking about my experience and what I had seen other guys go through in the bare knuckle days with no referee. The only way you stop the fight is the corner threw in the towel. So chill out, where you can kick a down opponent in the face. That's a BMF to me. So chill, people. It was a comment. I meant no disrespect towards Diaz or Masvidal. They're Hall of Fame fighters. They're great fighters. It was just the idea of the BMF.
Well, once again, we want to thank you so much, Mr. Shamrock. Looking forward to everything that's coming up with you, and we'd love to have you back on soon. So thank you again for all your hard work.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.